Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. For those who are on YouTube, uh, you just heard um, my exclusive interview with Isaac Dogboe, who's fighting Jesse Magdaleno this coming Saturday in Philly. Coming right back with a regular show. Joining me this week is Daniel from The Inscriber, Jacob from Jab Hook. What's going on, fellas?
Good evening.
Good evening.
For those who are new to the show, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, live weekly YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns sweet science, we will talk about it. Apologize for my voice. I'm in the beginnings, I believe, of catching a bit of a cold, so my voice is a little bit off. Plus, I just did an interview, like I said before, with Isaac Dogboe. If you want to find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the blog page. You'll find information. You'll find the links to where to check out our pages and channels on Facebook, G+, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, as well as links to where to listen to the show, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. Let's get the show started this evening, recapping what went down last week. Busy weekend in boxing this past weekend. Let's focus on the triple header that took place at Barclays on Showtime. The main event, I should say, Adrien Broner versus Jessie Vargas. Catchweight bout at 144 pounds. Broner initially missed the weight by zero point 0.2 pounds on the second attempt, stripped down and made the weight. Look, I didn't really care who won. I was mad in that regard. I just wanted a good fight, and guess what? We actually got a good fight. The fight was scored a draw. Uh, both guys felt that they won. First half, second half fight for me. Vargas had the advantage in the first half. Broner, he really came on in the second half of the fight. I'll go to you, Jacob. Your impressions of what went down?
Kind of the same camp as you. I didn't really care who won this fight. To me, Broner's a has been, and I'm not a huge Jesse Vargas fan, but I kind of wanted Jesse Vargas to. He doesn't have the pop, but I was hoping he would, maybe knock out Broner. But the end result doesn't really matter. I mean, if they're gonna roll it again, fine. But Broner, of course, his usual classy self after interviews were what I expected. But to me, neither guy is a real big player in that division. And Broner could say all he wants that he won the fight, and it was a close fight, and there was entertaining things about it. But I mean, he's definitely not elite because you don't, if you're elite, you wouldn't go to a decision, or you wouldn't have it that close of a fight. You'd be able to do something. But he let his hands go a little bit more towards the middle to the end of the fight. And Jesse's a tough guy though too. I mean, but again, I really don't have too much more to say on it because it was an insignificant fight for me.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
It was a lot more entertaining, I guess, than I actually expected. And it was pretty much a tale of two fights. Like Jesse Vargas used his range really, really well in the first half of the fight. His jab to the body worked extremely well when it came to Broner, but he gassed out a little bit because he's used to fighting out welterweight. So shedding those extra 3 pounds for this fight might have caused a little bit of emptying the tank a little bit, and Broner was able to come back in the second half. I was okay with the draw. Like, it wasn't so much like a guy completely dominated enough of the fight to say you won. But at the same time, you could probably say that Broner needed that W more than Vargas did. Vargas is pretty much right now like in the periphery of potential contenders at welterweight, like in the really outer orbit. Whereas Broner, first he has to decide what weight class he actually wants to fight in once again. And it still shows that, particularly in this first half of the fight, he went back to the style where he didn't throw enough punches. Now, like, obviously, that helped him in the second half of the fight because it's a little bit more fresh, but it wasn't impressive. Obviously, we all know what his post-fight interview became, and ultimately, there's really not much you can say because 140 pounds, I don't expect Broner not to be a contender, and we already know that he doesn't have either most likely the chin or the power to actually really do damage at welterweight.
Quick question: would you want to see a rematch between these two, given kind of the mere futures that you each of you gave for both fighters?
No, and I can't believe that Broner made $1 million for that fight. I mean, it's almost like they want to keep him around. And I mean, I don't know what the ratings are going to be for this, but I mean, it was part of a triple header. So, I mean, we'll talk about the other fights. But like I said, I don't really care to see either guy again.
I'm not surprised that they made $1 million. Broner is, we know Al Heyman does have a group of favorite fighters. So, unfortunately, Broner's one of them. But I wouldn't be against the rematch, but I'm not clamoring for it either. The fight is what it was. And if anything, the rematch might be a little bit more desperation on Team Broner's part because, like I said, he needed that fight more than Vargas did. Vargas can walk away and pretty much say, okay, I paid him to a draw, but I wasn't in my weight class. Broner was in between. Like I said, he needed a victory to even remain relevant to whatever weight class he's in.
As I was saying, this was the main event of a triple header that took place in Barclays on Showtime. I want to focus on the middle bouts. Jermall Charlo fighting Centeno. Charlo destroying Centeno, bodying him in 2 rounds. He's now mandatory contender for the WBC belt held by Triple G. Am I going too far? And I'll start with you, Daniel. You can follow up, Jacob. Am I going too far by thinking after the fight, I want to see Jermall Charlo fight Triple G. I want to see that fight more than I want a rematch between Triple G and Canelo. Your thoughts on that and brief synopsis of what went down and how Charlo basically ate this dude up like Pac-Man.
Given, like I said, how May 5th imploded, everybody should be in the right for that to want to that fight because obviously, like I said, the fight with Canelo's right now is leaving a sour taste in people's mouth. And Jermall provides a new challenge for Triple G. And it says to the fact that not only he has pop, he's pretty tall for the weight. He's really, really, he's very, very filled out. And
yeah, he was big for a junior middleweight. Looking at him, there was a size difference between him and Centeno in that fight. He looks big as a middleweight as well.
Yep, and you should even see the fight review. He made Jermall look small compared to him.
I mean, he looked Jared Hurd big.
Yeah, and that pretty much tells you like he could be filled out. He could go to super. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to super middleweight in 2 years. Just the way his body is. But he also has a pretty decent skill set with Ronnie Shields. They know how to work a game plan. They know how to focus in the fight. And before that, like I think somebody pointed, I think it was Raging Babe on Twitter that pointed out, I said I would find it funny if Golovkin decided to skip Canelo and fight Charlo in September. I would love to see it, but then there's the problem of Abel Sanchez's comments when it came to Jermall Charlo. It makes it feel like he won't want to see that fight at least for a while. But you kind of have no choices in the matter because now Golovkin has, well, he's about to have 3 mandatories. And obviously, if your goal is to make sure you beat the division and all the belts, you have to meet your mandatories. And Jermall made a pretty decent case on Saturday.
Jacob, we Daniel just said that there's kind of a clamoring for Jermall versus Triple G. We were talking about this before the show, before we went live. Your thoughts on the prospect of Jermall going forward in the middleweight division?
I mean, he definitely has the size. He's got an excellent jab too, which would be an interesting dynamic if he were to fight Triple G, because Triple G has a pretty good, powerful jab. So it'd be like two pistons going at each other. I've seen more talk though about Danny Jacobs and Charlo potentially getting it on. Like, if Danny Jacobs gets by his opponent, I don't necessarily think that Triple G is gonna take that fight right away. I could see. So we don't know what's going to happen with this IBF situation. So if he loses that belt and maybe he's trying to get that back first, but I mean, he's going to be in a very precarious situation. Of course, there's Billy Joe Saunders. That belt's out there still. So I mean, he's going to have different options, but he's also getting older too. I don't really think he's going to be sticking around too much longer. And it might be the smart way to not do any dangerous fights, especially if they're not going to bring money, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what the money situation would be like for that. And he's HBO. I'm not sure if Charlo is definitely connected to Showtime, but I know he's been fighting. Him and his brother have been fighting on Showtime, so that'll be another interesting dynamic there. But the one thing I will say, even though Jermall, had a really good performance, the one thing I do see that I think he really needs to tighten up on is not getting so wild. He throws some haymakers. I mean, he clocked him, but he missed a bunch of shots though too in between. He can get a little wild, and so the only thing I see there is that if somebody had a little bit tighter defense and was looking for the counter, they could pop him right in the mouth, and we'd see what he's really made of. So, but I mean, the Charlos, both of them have been ripping through guys lately. So I mean, they're bringing a lot of good blood to the two divisions.
And indeed, opening bout of this triple header, Gervonta Davis fighting on Jesus Cuellar. I mean, listen, Cuellar hadn't fought in over a year, maybe 2 years. Smaller guy. There were questions of Gervonta after his last performance on the Mayweather-McGregor card. That being said, Davis, this is what you're supposed to look like all the time in every fight. He was too big, too strong, too talented for this guy, and did what he had to do. Took him out in 3 rounds and looked very good doing so. I'll go to you, Jacob. Your thoughts on the fight, as Davis is once again a world champion at 130 pounds.
Yeah, Davis just like a buzzsaw went through Cuellar. And he hadn't fought since and I actually saw this fight live since he fought Mares. And I had seen
believe
him,
that was 2016, right?
It was December 2016, December 10th, 2016. So and he got knocked down in that fight by Mares. So I mean, he's definitely a smaller guy. I had also seen him fight Vic Darchinyan, and Darchinyan's way past his prime, but he gave him a good fight, even though he ended up winning by TKO. But you know, to me, Cuellar he is not big enough for, you know, Davis is just too big for him. He completely overpowered him. He completely, you know, literally bodied him. But I mean, you could just tell from jump that the pressure that Davis was putting on, and you know, so I mean, I give credit to Davis for the performance, but to your point previously, you know, he needs to put in these kind of performances every time, and you know, his last performance wasn't all that great, but you know, he definitely has talent. You know, he's a young kid. We've talked about it before. Maybe got a little bit of an attitude, you know, adjustment that he needs. You know, being young and the potential that's there. But I mean, you know, he was throwing some great shots to the head and the body. So I mean, you know, it was a good exciting win for him.
I go to you, Daniel. I guess the move out of Baltimore, uh, deciding to work with um, Campbell. Not oh no, not Campbell. Kevin Cunningham, excuse me,
I think
as well as
Daniel
Floyd
said
putting
he'd
out
be right
there.
back. I think Daniel said he'd be right back.
Okay, I'm sorry. I see you. No, I didn't know you was on here. Scorsese. I go to you. Talk about this fight right quick and give you time to catch up on the other two fights we were talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking Gervonta Davis and Cuellar. I guess the move from Baltimore, the fact that he's working with Kevin Cunningham, and let's face it, Floyd putting some fear in there, mentioning Lomachenko, made young Tank get some act right.
I think it's mostly Kevin Cunningham. You know, somebody that's been around. You saw Devin come back, look sharp, and Devin had, you know, the best of Devin was very sharp. He been around. You know, the St. Louis fight has been dealing with him. So, you know, he got a professional atmosphere. He bragged about, yo, we got Camp Cunningham. Literally, we got a house, we got a chef, we got this. And that discipline match with that athleticism and those professionals being around you, you can go a long way. Tank is a phenomenal young fighter, man. Like, yes, he's still a prospect. I don't care the titles. The age is still a prospect. The mindset he's in, the atmosphere he's from, him trying to pull himself out of that. To me, that's all prospect stuff that he's ironing out. And I think guys like Cuellar, what's the Puerto Rican's name? I'm
Machado.
No, he took the title from the one he took to Pedraza. I think they're good fighters, but like a top level prospect, they can overcome them like Tank is doing. And he needs to do about maybe 3 more of these kind of fights. A Tevin Farmer would be good for him next, I think. The winner, Billy Dibb, Tevin Farmer. Actually, I think he could do better than Billy Dibb as Billy Dibb was to win. But I'm loving it, man. Like, I agree with y'all. Like, more consistency, keep this mindset. But it takes a lot for a young fighter to tell the people that he came up with, look, I need something new. And I need, you know, the last time his team they didn't know how to get the weight increments right. You know, they not to say they bad at boxing, but it's a professional thing. It's a science to some of this shit. And Cunningham, good chef, good home, good, you know, people that watching your every move, not just a bunch of yes men around you. You saw that with how he was training Broner. Tank got something good out of that, and he need to, you know, I agree. The move from Baltimore need to be made and away from the team that you got there with. You can carry them with you, but they need a voice. And Cunningham was that, and you saw that shit was nice. That was nice. The man was hitting, getting out, starting it all over again. Punches to the body, punches up top. If you go high, I dip the level and I hit you up top. You go to the body, I'm catching with elbows and I'm returning fire, or I'm beating you to the shot, and then I'm moving my head and my body to the next angle after I hit. That was beautiful. Tank fought beautiful. I want to see more. Wish him all the luck.
Shout out to Gus. Shout out to Fink, listening to us in the live show. Shout out especially to Gus. He was also listening to the interview I did prior to this with young contender Isaac Dogboe. I go to you, Jacob. Your thoughts on the fight with Tank Davis and Cuellar?
Actually, I gave mine. I think it's Daniel. Daniel's up.
Okay, go ahead. I'll go ahead, Daniel. My mistake.
I did expect this because this is pretty much 2 weight divisions above Cuellar's class at this point. And this is what Tank was supposed to do. Show us athleticism, show his power, show some discipline, and show how he can he knocked out a guy. Now, first, let's just speak about the fuckery of the WBA here.
Yep.
Because this was for like the super championship at 130 pounds, even though Machado is technically the super champion.
Yeah, yet he can't get a fight with the mandatory because of WBA BS. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, WBA BS. And now, so you're going to give this to Gervonta Davis. Okay, he's technically a champion. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. You did what you're supposed to do. You got discipline, and you have a team now around you. Now we have to remember that. He's most likely gonna listen now. Probably not train in Baltimore, not try to be around those areas. At least his team should focus on that. Don't know if he'll personally do it though. And I did well. While you can say you can like that, he said he wants his original belt. He wants the winner of Tevin Farmer, Billy Dib. We all know, if he's back in Floyd's good graces, he's not getting anywhere near Tevin Farmer.
I think he would beat the dog shit out of Tevin Farmer. Honestly,
I don't know about that.
Farmer would probably be too slick for him.
He can beat Tank can beat Farmer, but will it be a wipeout? No.
Yes. Yeah.
But
I think if he lands on Farmer, he could change the fight.
Yes. Yeah.
Land. The point is he has to actually land though. That's my whole issue with it. And like I said, as long as he can keep this discipline, as long as he can keep his mouth out of interviews and talking a whole lot of mess, this can be good. This can be good for him. We just have to see, though, how long he lasts, because he's still, 23, 24 years old?
Yeah, he's 23.
Yeah, so he's still young enough to pretty much just say at one point, F it, I'm going to just do it my own way. But I hope he listens, because we know the talent's there. We know the speed is there. You just now have to show that you have the long-term discipline to stay there.
I'm going back to you, Scorsese. I'm giving you the time to catch up here. Your thoughts on Broner and Jessie Vargas, that draw, as well as the way that Jermall bodied Centeno.
Yeah, I'm going to focus more on the last one. The draw, I'm cool with it. Broner started late. Vargas faded because the catch weight, simple as that, and Broner picked it up, but they fought between the average of 140 and 147, and they're the average people in that class. It is what it is. I don't know why they're still main eventing, but Broner still can sell tickets, so we're going to see more of him, and you're going to see more catch weights. It is what it is. Anybody that goes for it, that's on you. But Jermall Charlo, I have put him on my first-degree murderers list. That man comes with the intent to do harm. He wakes out the bed knowing that it's none of that self-defense. Tank was sort of self-defense. You know what I mean? Like, he came at me, so I had to do this. It's nothing wrong with that. But when you priming like this man is priming, this brother can probably run a 4.5, 4.6, 40. You could tell he could probably dunk a basketball, could probably make Odell Beckham Jr. level catches.
Let's not go too far, bro.
No. I'm telling you, this man is a superior athlete mixed with a monster. With
Roy
a
Jones
mindset.
Superior athlete. He's just really good. He's not Roy Jones athlete.
That kind of way, I see what you're saying. But that killer instinct mixed with the foot speed, he is a superior at what that makes him look even faster, even more frightening, because it's coming at you in an intent to do harm to you. How can you not like people saying, oh, he fighting this guy? Look, all he's doing is fighting what the WBC is putting in front of him until they say you get the champion. I don't want to see no detour to Jacobs and I want to see him get his title shot. If Danny Jacobs wanted to be the guy that was fighting Charlo, You know what should happen? You should have beat Triple G and he would have been chasing you. You failed. You wasn't aggressive enough. Jermall Charlo set the knockout up by the stab and double jab. He was coming with the quick feet, shifting. If you watch Kevin Cunningham in the Broner fight, he said, Broner, quit walking straight up to him. Give me some of that slide. Jermall Charlo was slide, bam. Oh my God, this bro. Look, one of the most fun fighters to watch. First degree. I got a list of first degree murderers out there. Earl Spence, some people like that on it. This man just put his name up there in his top 3, maybe. He get the job done. It don't matter where you rate it. It don't matter where you've been so far. When he hit you, Centeno just went limp. The man went limp. Left hook. I mean, he set it up with the feet beautifully. He didn't have enough space. Took a little bitty step back, but it was on both feet because he's an athlete. You know, just a little bit to say, get that left hook in there and go on out with this right hand I got for you. Man, come on, man. This man ain't playing no games, bro. I don't want to talk about no Broner. I don't want to talk about no Vargas. I love all fighters. But when you got a person on your undercard, that means you supposed to be showing up to be the show. This man steals every show. It's about time, PBC. Houston is wide open. They don't even have great rappers right now. They need something to
hold up now.
They not mainstream right now. I'm just saying they need something to cling on to. Man, I don't know how good the Astros are. I don't know how good the Texans are. I don't hear much. The Houston Rockets rated #1, but we know how James Harden just sink in the playoffs. It's wide open down there for them Charlo brothers to run shit. PBC, come on now. It's time. Main event. Them brothers is crazy. I'm done. Jesus.
I've made an argument. I made an argument prior to you coming on that I would much rather see Charlo Triple G than Triple G Canelo too. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, it's fresher. I mean, I'd rather see Canelo Charlo. It's fresher. It's more fresh. They had their chances to get by each other, and they failed. Let's see if you put the first degree murderer in there. Let's see what happens. Ooh, Jesus. 160 used to just be hard to talk about. You used to have to talk about David Lemieux. And I felt the way y'all felt about David Lemieux last week, I felt this way about him 2 years ago. So it used to be. So now when it's refreshed, it's revitalized, you see athletes, you see different skill sets, you see mean streaks. Man, I'm telling you. 160 is not a place to have a bad night because your ass might get turned into a vegetable. Boy, that man is crazy. That man is crazy. I thought it was going to be another altercation in the ring where Centeno goes to shake his hand and Charlo is doing that truck pull and he just wouldn't quit doing it. I'm like, no, please shake his hand. He's being polite. Like this time you going to be the asshole because he just woke up from the dead. He didn't have to wake up. He didn't have to. God was telling him, you could come this way if you want. And he had the bright light on. Centeno went ahead, woke up, and said, I ain't going to go with Jesus. All right? So he went over there, and he was trying to hug him, and I thought Charlo was finna play that tough shit. I was just like, man, you're going to look like a pure asshole and ruin your performance. I might have liked it, but other people, you know what I'm saying? I'm a savage. Other people might have been a little turned away. But he shook his hand, and I said, good job. Good night all the way around. Good night all the way around.
I haven't heard Scorsese this excited about a fighter since Stevenson.
Yeah,
I like knockouts. I like first degree murderers, man. They get praised in boxing, man.
They do. And let's talk about the way Charlo set that up. Now, yes, granted, there was a headbutt in there, but it was a nice 4 to 5 punch combination ending in that left hook. Consistent accuracy. Not letting Centeno really counter. Not doing any catch and shoots. And then finishing it off right there. Like I said, that's why the reason you want to see Jermall to Triple G. The problem is, like I said, number one, he's already said he's looking to fight in Houston in August. And Golovkin's already looking towards September. And not to mention that Golovkin has the IBF issue to deal with. Especially if, like I said, we have to remember, if Golovkin is all about the belts, he'll face Derevchenko first to make sure that he doesn't lose the IBF one.
Nah, I I don't think he's all about the belts because I know he says that, but he had his chance. He went Canelo over Billy Joe Saunders. That's facts.
Yeah.
Indeed. Let's move on to let me read this comment from Gus. Jermall Charlo stylistically has a better chance against Triple G in comparison to Canelo or Saunders. He is so open to a counterpuncher, even more so to a southpaw counterpuncher. Uh, Trout exposed him, and Saunders will embarrass him. Your thoughts?
You got a point. Trout gave it a go. Trout gave it a go. Billy Joe Saunders ain't a joke. He got a point. But Billy Joe Saunders better come in shape or he gonna get knocked the hell out.
Yeah, that's my thing.
I mean, it's like what I said before, though. I mean, Charlo can get a little wild, and he is open for counters. So I mean, like in that, even though he knocked him out, I mean, he if you look at the replay in slow mo, I mean, he missed a few shots, like some big shots he missed, and then he landed that one telling shot that put him to sleep. But you got somebody that has a little bit tighter and a little bit better hand-eye coordination that can slip a punch right in between that. We'll see what Charlo's made of because I mean I don't really know what kind of chin he has. I mean because I don't really think he's always been the bigger guy in the fight. So I mean I would love to see him against like someone like a Hurd if he moved up. But no way Oscar puts him in with his golden goose in with Charlo. No way.
No, that's been evident for years. So that's been evident for years when it comes to the Charlos and Canelo with either Jermall or Jermall.
Go ahead.
Now the thing with it though is you made it the point, Mike. Which Saunders shows up? Is it Billy Joe Saunders, the guy who pretty much, like I said, made David Lemieux look like a flat out amateur who probably didn't even go to the World Championships? Or do we get Billy Ho Saunders, who doesn't really train right, spends pretty much his entire training camp just cutting weight and looks lethargic?
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna take that back. What I said there. I don't care what Billy Joe Saunders show up. Jermall Charlo is too athletic, too mean. He gonna knock Billy Joe out either way. I love Billy Joe Saunders and what he could do on the back foot because he got to do it because he is strong inside. I'll take that back. He is, but he can't compete there with the power of some of these guys, and he knows that. But at some point, the foot speed, the ability to pop that jab while he's coming forward. I like Billy. I like Billy, but boy, it's over. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's safer routes. He wants Triple G. He ain't said nothing about you. He wants Canelo. If he's not saying your name, look the other way. And I think Billy Joe Saunders probably smart enough to do that.
Let's move on to the doubleheader that took place on in Belfast. Aired on, interestingly enough, on Showtime's Facebook and YouTube channel. The main event was called Frampton Nonito Donaire. Proving ground fight for both guys. Frampton has been looking iffy since the loss to Santa Cruz in the rematch. Donaire, long end of the tooth, And watching this fight, Frampton won by unanimous decision. Frampton looked pretty good, but the ultimate thing I got from this that the Filipino Flash, it's time for you to call it a day because you can't compete with the top guys anymore. You can't. And anybody who wants to respond, please do.
To me, it was a good fight, entertaining fight. And I agree with you. I think, the Flash's best days are behind him. But I mean, I don't know. This told me a lot about where Frampton is because I wasn't sure where his headspace was and the split with the McGuigans and just everything that's been going on with him. So I mean, he's definitely a live dog in that division. So I'm glad to see that. Props to both guys though for there's a bunch of video of them, talking after the fight and just the amount of respect that they have for each other and just, I love seeing things like that because to me that elevates the sport. Hey, you're going to be in the ring, you're going to be knocking each other's heads off, or trying to, and you're just trying to win. But, at the end of the day, it is a sport, and I like to see that kind of respect and, you know, kind of a little bit of a passing of the torch, so to speak.
Scorsese, Daniel, your thoughts on this fight?
Oh man, I was picking Nonito, and he came out in the first round, and he looked fucking phenomenal. I was just like, shit, Frampton, you about to have problems. As soon as you got hit, it's just that old man syndrome. It's like, oh shit, and especially when the swelling started to show up on the eye. That the old man came. Now I'll say this: I only scored the fight 7-5 because he hurt him like twice. He won a few rounds, in my opinion, outright, just probably like 3. Then the other 2 he hurt him in, and I was like, yo, he took that round. He literally rocked the hell out of him. And then something in the 11th round when Frampton just rushed him and with his head and tried to push him out the ring. I thought a point was gonna go, and I was like, yo, if that happened, I had a draw in something that wasn't a close fight, but his power saved him. Like they say, loud power last thing to go, and he showed it like 2 times in that fight. He showed it 2 times that Frampton was vulnerable, but overall, Frampton looked like his daddy. He was punking him. If you don't have a jab that Frampton has a problem getting past, and Nonito didn't have one, he can punk the hell out of you. He could sit on you and work and just be a bulldog up under you. Now that what he did with his lead hand in this fight, that was phenomenal. Kept the hands higher than he normally does. The lead hand was left hook, turn it jabbing. He throw the hook, then he throw the jab, and then he turn the jab over, throw it as an up jab, just clapping Donaire, man. And it's old man syndrome or not, he was doing it. So give Frampton the credit, see where he come back, and I would like to see him fight Valdez next. If that's who he's calling, hell yeah, I take that.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
It showed 2 things. Number one, Frampton is luckily getting past all the stuff that got him involved with, like I said, splitting with the McGuiggans, hiring Irish goons to take out his opponent when he didn't make weight, and ultimately show that if you put him with a quality opponent, even if it's an opponent isn't a weight class he really shouldn't be in. Let's face it, Donaire never really is a legitimate contender at featherweight. I would probably say he did good on that job, and I got to give it to Nonito. Nonito gave it a fight. There were a couple of times that he was able to stun Frampton, but it goes back to the fact that he really didn't belong at featherweight. Those shots, most likely, if they were fighting at 122 or 118, might have hurt. Really hurt and might have knocked down Frampton. But it's just unfortunately a weight class too big for him. And I love the sportsmanship. I love how Nonito said, I'm rooting for you. Like coming into the fight. That's, like Jacob said, that's the things that you need to see in the sport more often. Because we've seen enough of like the trash talk social media where it doesn't back up. When then fighters get involved with either media members or rappers, like we just saw, like with Broner and Tekashi. It's a good thing to see now. We know the WBA is happy because it would keep the belt among their 2 favorite promoters, Frank Warren and Bob Arum. So that's going to be an interesting fight going forward because we know Valdez needs to put on a pretty good performance, and Frampton might be the guy to do it, to bring it out of him.
Well, the problem is that Valdez dealing with basically his face being broken in that Scott Quick fight. It's going to take him time to recover with the jaw and all. Probably won't have to fight till later on this year if he fights any time in 2018 at all the rest of the year.
Not just that, but the accumulation of tough fights in a row. I mean, he took a beating in that fight, but he also, he hasn't had the greatest. He's been getting hit a lot, and his body. I think we talked about before. I don't know if he's a long distance runner when it comes to that division. He could be ripe for the picking.
So the future of Scott Quigg immediately, the winner of Selby Warrington this summer in the UK outdoors. I can see that.
Sure, Quigg or Frampton? You mean Frampton?
Frampton. I'm sorry, Frampton. Him fighting the winner of Selby and Warrington. Yeah, I can see that for the summer.
Something about Selby seem wrong, man. Selby might start working a jab on him. Then again, he could be physically stronger than Selby. It just seemed. I just feel like Valdez might get you back into the American market where you got a lot of Irish fans potentially. Yeah, I think he probably liked that money better. Maybe I don't know. If Valdez seemed like a easier option with his face just getting all wrecked up and him being a wrecking ball that he is. Selby just, even though he's not, just a great fight, he seemed fresher and he's longer. I don't know, man. I don't know. Both are good options, but I think I might put the Valdez one if I was trying.
On the undercard of this bout between Frampton and Donaire, one of my favorite fighters, Zolani Tete, he fought Omar Narvaez, mandatory defense. Look, I am a Tete fan, but I have to say that fight was a bit of a snoozer. Very reminiscent of Narvaez when he fought Nonito Donaire back during Donaire's prime. Donaire made it easy work, but Narvaez fought in the shell all night long. Same thing here. Tete made it easy work, too easy. Narvaez fought in the shell all night long. I was a little bit disappointed that Tete didn't fight with more aggression in this fight, really forced it to Narvaez. Either force him to quit or force the referee to intervene because Narvaez, he wasn't going to punch back. But he got the win. And yeah, what's next for him? Maybe a slot in this proposed Super Series tournament at 118. Maybe he ends up fighting Inouye. I don't know. But this fight, you got nothing from it. You got nothing from it at all. And anybody who wants to comment, please do. Or if you don't want to comment because it was a bit of a snoozer, by all means.
He needed to make the first degree murder list in this fight. He had all the makings, the length, the speed, the strength, the youth. He had all of it. And even when Narvaez found himself coming forward the seldom amount of times he did, with a few amount of times that he did, Tete would just break range, like instinctively, just like, no. He's giving you the opportunity to go ahead and use a little movement, slip his shot, or just punch over the top as he's coming in. Just punch over the top. He's much shorter, but I don't know. It's maybe just who he is. But that was, I don't even blame Omar that much. He was fooled. He didn't want to take punishment. He did what he was supposed to do. Survive if you can. Don't get hurt if you can. He wasn't meant to win the fight. I'm looking at Tete saying, man, step on the gas, cut that ring off, and whoop him, brother. Whoop. It just didn't happen, man. I don't know.
Jacob, Daniel, if you were able to see the bout, your thoughts quickly.
I mean, not much more to add. I mean, it wasn't, again, the greatest fights. And I expected, kind of like it was said, I expected more from Tete because he's been, a lot of people say he's the most avoided man in boxing right now. And after his last performance, he had the record for the fastest knockout or finish in a championship fight. So, I mean, but I don't know. Maybe he wanted to get some rounds in. You can't be finishing all your guys, too fast. Maybe it's a ploy to potentially not look that great and get people to come out to fight you. That's been used in the past by other boxers when they can't get the fights that they want. So, they put on a May performance and then other people start to think, oh, maybe, hey, I could beat that Tete. But, and then when they show up to the fight, the real Tete comes out. So, I mean, it could be, a variety of things, or maybe just a stylistic, sometimes these styles just don't make good fights, So I don't know. I mean, it's not too much more to say. I'm more excited to see, what the future holds for Tete and see if he can get, if we were talking about that Inouye fight, man, if they can get that, if they could put that together, damn, that would be great.
Any word on this, Daniel, or do you want to move on?
I'll put it to you guys, and many came to this way. Tete should have knocked out now. Like the main thing when it came to Narvaez is his style makes it difficult to you to look really flashy in. And he did what he was going to do. That's why the fight turned to a snoozer. But Tete should have really made a highlight reel of this one, because if your goal is Inoue, your goal technically should be to bring Inoue to the UK, because that goes with the plans that Inoue's team has about making him more global. You just made that performance makes the fight say, no, we'd rather have the fight in Japan. Now, that can change, though, when it comes to the proposed World Boxing Super Series tournament. But I didn't expect much. I expected a highlight rip, but knowing Narvaez, I didn't expect much after round one. After I saw round one, like, okay, this is how the fight's going to be.
Anybody want to talk about? I didn't talk about this fight last week. Anyone want to talk about Amir Khan's quote unquote comeback against Le Greco? I mean,
yeah, I'll say one thing.
I'm not giving no credit for him, and I don't understand why people are just all overblown, like, Khan is back and blah blah blah. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, he beat a no hoper. I never was. Y'all give him credit for that? Okay.
I mean, same sentiments in the sense that, when I was reading these tweets and people were like, "Oh, King Kong's back, King Kong's back," I'm like, who the fuck did you beat? You didn't beat nobody. I mean, Le Greco's I think his only claim to fame was that he fought Spence, and maybe that's the only thing that I saw. But I don't know. Khan, to me, the way he's been talking about, like, he feels better than ever. He's in his prime. These knockouts that he's had. He because he gets knocked out with like one punch, he doesn't take as much damage as these other beatings that other people make. And then now he's talking about he wants to fight Kell Brook at welterweight only. It's just like, come on, man. This is 2017. Not 20 or 2005.
I'll ask you the same question that I asked you earlier about Tete, Daniel. Any word on this, or are you just like, yeah, move on?
Yeah, that fight was worthless, and the trash talk to Kell Brook was worthless. Talking about I'm the one chasing you, when we all know pretty much that you've avoided Kell Brook at all costs. So don't act foolish now that you know that Kell Brook has decided to be probably in a new weight class, and probably really would probably make it too hard right now to make welterweight. It's just kind of saying like, oh, I want to fight Brook, but he's gonna be junior middleweight. I can't do it. We'll never see this fight.
Indeed, Scorsese, he had to dip. Hopefully, he can make it back.
As a side note, though, he better be careful though, because there was a video with Spence and Brook. They were at a fight. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about. He was telling Spence, like, hey, let's do it again. Let's do a rematch. So, that would be a welterweight. So, Khan might get what he asked for.
There was a chance meeting out in Vegas. Brook was out there for, I can't remember the exact fight, but both of them were in the building. And yeah, to your point, Jacob, they were talking about it. Brook was saying initially, yeah, move up to 154. I won a title. We can do it. And there was possible talk about them at 47. Again, I doubt that. Brook just too tough for him to make the way at this point. But the bottom line was they were talking about fighting each other again, and this followed a back and forth that they had on Twitter. So yeah, who knows? But Khan, I give him no credit for that fight last week. None. None. No real newsworthy things happening other than I'll just put this out there. There was a presser today in California, and the news that broke from with Triple G and Valentin Monterosa. Let me say that. But the biggest thing I got from that is that number one woman pound for pound boxer in the world, Cecilia Braekhus. She was out there. Shout out to regular guest on the show, Gail. She couldn't make it tonight. She was at that presser. Uh, Cecilia Braekhus, who Gail got a nice photo with, by the way, will be fighting on the Triple G Monterosa undercard. So we will see the number one women's fighter in the world, pound for pound, in the States. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm more excited about seeing her than the main event. Like I love to get opportunities to see fighters that mostly fight, outside the States, when they can get on an undercard and whatnot. So I'm hoping that the California fans do her right and, give her the respect she deserves. I'm very excited to see her, to see a fight live is, there's nothing better in the world. So, I hope she puts on a good show and I hope she gets a bunch of new fans and some more meaningful fights, but really happy for her.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
I'm very, very happy because you get to see one of the best fighters, best women's fighter, and now in the States, in the U.S., not only that, in a venue that tends to bring out the best in everyone, in the StubHub Center. There has rarely been a stinker at the StubHub Center when it came to pretty much the entire card. So this is going to be interesting, and we'll probably see her dominate. And like I said, if it looks impressive enough, maybe she may mention either Clarissa Shields or maybe even Christina Hammer, both of who are going to fight soon in the States. So I'm really, really glad about this. And ultimately, like I said, if it brings more high-profile spotlight to women's boxing, the better.
Okay, let's move on to preview some fights that's happening this weekend. As I said to begin the show, I did a one-on-one interview with Isaac Dogboe, who will be fighting Jesse Magdaleno this coming Saturday in Philadelphia. Dogboe, WBO interim champion, 122 pounds. Magdaleno, official WBO champion at 122 pounds. So it's kind of a WBO thing to see who's the unified WBO champion, if you will, at that weight. The fight is going to be held on ESPN. That's a good look. Your thoughts, gentlemen, on this fight? Kind of bad blood heading into the bout. The Dogboe father and son, his father trains his son. They're an entertaining pair, for sure. Talking a lot going in, and Dogboe, he's a good fighter. I got to give it up to Dogboe. He's a good fighter. Maybe on the short side, but he's really, really strong. He's really, really in shape, and I think he has power. And he's coming off of an impressive stoppage win over Cesar Juarez earlier this year. And you keep hearing these rumors that Jesse Magdaleno, and Gus pointed this out during the live show, shout out to him, that Magdaleno is having some issues getting down to 122 pounds. So your thoughts on the fight, gentlemen?
Should be pretty good fight, I think. I'm going to have to go Dogboe on this one. Like you said, if those rumors are true about getting down to the weight, that's gonna weigh on him a little bit.
And let me interject. Excuse me for interrupting, Jacob. During the interview, Isaac, he made sure to note that a couple times that he wants Magdaleno and come to fight, assuming you can make the weight. Proceed.
Does that mean that if he doesn't make the weight, that there's no fight? Did he allude to that?
No, he's just pointing out the fact of what we've been hearing, that Magdaleno may have some issues getting down to 122 pounds.
Yeah, we'll see. It's been been a minute since basically a year since Magdaleno fought, which I actually was at that fight at the StubHub when he fought Santos and knocked him out. But his coming out party was against Donaire, but again, this is a faded Donaire. It's not the same Nonito that we know. So, I'm hoping it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully, he makes the weight. But I'm going to go with Dogboe on this.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, this is an interesting fight because Magdaleno has had this issue, has been having these particular issues with weight for a little bit of a while now. So it might be weighing on him, and Dogboe is a pretty good fighter. So you mentioned he's short, but he's very, very strong for the weight class. I have a feeling, though, that the animosity that was thrown in going into it might actually give Magdaleno the edge and unfortunately, Dogboe's not going to have too many people on his corner in that front. It is not going to be a quick fight to me. I think it's going to be pretty much going to be a dogfight throughout. But I expect Magdaleno to win. Like, there's enough emotional ammunition now to match it up. But I would probably also expect for him this to be his last fight at 122.
I see Bo from Truth and Facts has joined us. As I said during the interview with Isaac Dogboe, Jr. and Senior, want to give a shout out to Bo. He behind the scenes helped me reach out to some folks to secure that interview with Isaac Dogboe that took place earlier this evening. We're talking about that fight now with Magdaleno. I'm also going to give you time to catch up on some fights we talked about earlier. Your preview of Dogboe and Magdaleno. Unmute your mic, Bo. I don't think Bo is there. He may have some technical issues on his end. So we'll move on right now to some other fights. Brian Jennings is fighting on the undercard, fellas, of Magdaleno and Dogboe against a guy, quite frankly, I've never heard of. Any thoughts about the return of Brian Jennings? He hasn't been that active, so it's good to at least see him in the ring.
He's been pretty active, hasn't he? He's been on a couple of undercards.
Well, he went through kind of a bit of a hiatus, but still.
No, he did. But of recent, I believe he's been pretty active, actually.
Yeah, Top Rank has kept him busy.
He had a fight and 2 fights in 2017. Already a fight in February this year. So this will be his 4th fight in the last 2 years. So
my mistake. Go ahead.
I really like Brian Jennings. It's unfortunate. He had a pretty decent showing against Klitschko. Of course, he got uppercutted in that Ortiz fight. But I mean, it was a good fight up until that point. But he got caught, in my opinion. And I think he has some good skills. I mean, I'd like to see him be able to step up his competition. I don't know too much about the Philadelphia fighter. Was it Dewako or something like that? So, but he's 19-4. Nobody of real note on his resume that I could see except Mansour, who he lost to. So I mean, he's probably not gonna provide too much of a opposition to Jennings, who I think is a superior athlete. But hopefully this leads to something. I'd really like to see Jennings get another title shot again. I'm not sure, as far as the Top Rank stable of who's out there for him to fight, or how, if he can get in there one of those big fights. That's the question, I think.
Okay, I see Bo is back. Going to go back to him right quick. As I was stating, want to give you a shout out for the work on your references behind the scenes that helped me secure that interview with Isaac Dogboe that I did earlier. Your thoughts on the fight with Jessie Magdaleno that's coming up Saturday in Philadelphia?
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate I missed you. You guys had him on. I hate I missed it. It probably was one of the few times them guys had good internet. I think probably one of the few times they had good internet. The thing about it is it's going to be the tale. It's the classic tale of two contrasting fighters. Dogboe is he's a in your chest type of a boxer brawler type of fighter, and Jessie Magdaleno is more of a boxer puncher. He's more of a the guy that plays the matador. I think he has on a skill set level. I think Jessie Magdaleno is the better boxer because he uses his jab, he uses his range, he uses distance. He's a counter puncher, and I think that Dogboe is he's just an in your chest, just right up on you, tries to frustrate you and overpower you because he's short and stocky. He's like a little tank. So both of these guys got popped though. So it's going to be a good fight. I think I heard Dan, you say something earlier about Dogboe not having nobody in his corner. And even before whatever comments was made that he's going to be, fighting over here in the U.S., he was going to be on enemy territory anyway. Now, the good thing for him, this will be his 5th time fighting in the U.S., so he'll kind of have be used to. He'll kind of have a feeling of what it's like to be on enemy territory and nobody in your corner. But the one thing about him is he's always felt that all he's ever needed was his dad. So, and then of course, Magdaleno is going to have that extra oomph because this is he's going to have home field advantage because he is fighting right here in the U.S. So I'm liking that fight. I don't think that's one of those fights I don't think goes the distance. Somebody's going to get knocked out.
The Dogboes made sure to mention Magdalenos and the rumors of issues having weight. Any concern from you, Bo, regarding that?
No, not really. And the reason being is Magdaleno hasn't fought in over a year. So even if he's had little issues making weight, he's not worn out from fighting. He's had time to rest his body. And sometimes a long rest can be good for you. And not to mention Magdaleno had an injury too. So no, I'm not really concerned about that. Like if he had been fighting, I'd be a little concerned, but he had been fighting. So his body is rested. So he might be able to have the issue, but still fight well. So we're going to see, man. It's going to be a good fight. I believe it's going to be a really good fight. I like the whole card, actually, the whole, card that's going to be taking place in the city of brotherly love over there in Philadelphia. You got, I think you mentioned Brian Jennings, and this is going to be a good fight for Jennings because the guy he's fighting beat him in the amateurs. So that's a subplot there. And of course you got, and the guy he's fighting is also from Philadelphia too. So this is a Philly versus Philly fight with these two guys as heavyweights. And it's good to see Brian Jennings back. He signed with Top Rank, I think, in August of last year. So it's good to see him back. I'm gonna be curious to see what he's going to be like because he's trying to make a move. Brian Jennings' only losses came to Vladimir Klitschko in a decision and a loss to Luis Ortiz in a fight that I actually believe that he just fought the wrong fight, that fight against Luis Ortiz. He just fought the wrong fight, and he got caught. And then of course you got Jesse Hart, who was trying to make another title run at super middleweight, and he's fighting. So you got two hometown guys on the undercard of this. So I'm expecting some fireworks this entire fight. I mean, this entire card.
I'm going to give you a brief moment here to. Earlier, we talked about the triple header on Showtime as well as that double header with Belfast with Frampton, Donaire, and Tete. Of those bouts, which were the highlights from you from that triple header, as well as the double header that took place in Belfast?
I think the double header in Belfast, the Frampton fight, because Frampton is ever since in my opinion, ever since the Leo Santa Cruz fight, the second fight, Frampton been a little gun shy. And it kind of showed a little bit in the Donaire fight. Matter of fact, he's lucky Donaire isn't the Donaire he used to be because he kind of hurt Frampton a little bit. And you can tell Frampton didn't like that, especially in the 11th. And if Donaire was who he used to be, probably could have finished him. But, Donaire has been relegated to his only hope being, of course, landing is just patented left hook. So, but I think Donaire said he's going to go back to 122. So yeah, the Frampton Donaire fight stood out to me only because of just how gun shy Frampton looked, in my opinion. And then the triple header, what stood out to me was, of course, Tank Davis. I think Tank Davis' performance was the better of everybody on that card because Cuellar is a former world champion, and the way Tank finished him, going to the body, that was sharp going to the body. The angles he gave, the punch combination and variation, you can definitely tell that being with the new trainer, Kevin Cunningham, worked for him. But also the reason why it worked for him, because at the end of the fight, Tank Davis did say something that's very important, which is he owned up to the fact that he wasn't focused when he lost his title on the scale. He wasn't focused, that, he kind of let the moment being on the floor, maybe with undercard, get to him. So he lost focus, and he owned that and admitted to that. That's why he was able to go forward and learn from his training. And that's the problem with Adrien Broner, is he doesn't admit his fault. So he can't go forward learning because he's not admitting where he messed up at. In his mind, it's not me, it's everybody else. And that's the reason why this guy continues to have a hard time, is to where I liked how Tank Davis owned up to his mistakes. So once you own up to it and know what you did wrong, you're able to go forward. So the Cuellar Tank Davis surprised me. It was surprising. I didn't even know that was for a title. That really surprised me. So yeah, that performance probably stood out to me on that triple header.
Let me stop with you right here. I'm not gonna say who you are in the chat. I'm the one who can come in here and just delete comments that I don't like. Don't do that. One, two. You can't sit there and make an indictment about Gus and then respond what you just said. Let's not do that here. We don't. I don't tolerate that stuff on pound for pound. They may be good. They may be okay from other channels, but not here. I have standards. Move on. Let's move on. I'm just going to put that out there just for order. Now let's move on. Made me lose my train of thought here. In NYC on the same day on HBO, you have Daniel Jacobs making his return to the game against Sulecki, Big Baby Miller fighting Duhaupas, Katie Taylor fighting in unification. Oh, let me say this. Maybe before I go there, Bo, I'm gonna give you the floor. Bo, it's official. Cecilia Brækhus making her debut on the Triple G Baines undercard. Your thoughts?
Well, you have the most beautiful woman in all of combat sports. Finally, is going to be on an American feature attraction. It's surprising that HBO is doing this, only because Showtime has kind of been the leader in showcasing women's boxing. But of course, it's more of them showcasing Clarissa Shields. That's probably been it. But I'm glad to see it. It's long overdue. And I'm just happy to see it. I think I don't know how people are going to react to it, because she's more of a boxer and not, a puncher, sit down brawler. She's more of a, she's like a woman's version of a Floyd Mayweather. She's going to box you. So it's going to be curious to see how people take her style of how she fights over here. And, in the U.S., sometimes being a slick boxer doesn't necessarily go over well with the crowd. But I think in her case, if you've been following and you've been a boxing purist like those of us, we can watch her performance and be in all of it, because I've seen her fight, and it's something to watch her, the way she fights, how slick she is, how she moves, how she counters, how she leads her opponents and stuff of that nature. And so I'm excited to see it happen. I'm hoping HBO do more of this, featuring women fighters. That's the reason why you had some women like Heather Hardy and even one of the Serrano sisters go over to MMA, because they're not getting featured enough to where they can make money. So hopefully this is a trend that HBO picks up and continue going forward.
Let's move on to the card in New York. I'll go to you, Daniel. Jacobs and Sulecki. What did you see with this bout?
I can see a showcase mainly for Danny Jacobs because obviously you saw Charlo make his case last week. Now this is the point for Danny Jacobs to make his case and pretty much just say to remind people, look, I took Triple G to the distance. I broke his knockout streak. And like I said, there can be an argument made that I won that fight. So he really needs to shell out and improve now because obviously, like I said, that mandatory field is going to become very, very crowded pretty soon. With the IBF, WBC, and then between Jacobs and Murata, like I said, you're probably going to see the WBA coming back in. So Golovkin will have 3 mandatories that he has to deal with. So I expect a good thing for him. I do want to say a good thing about the Philly card, though. I actually really like the heavyweight fight because it is a grudge match type of fight.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that Jennings and the other guy really do not like each other. And it does go back to the amateurs. And like I said, that should be a pretty, really good fight because pretty much, like Jacob mentioned, as far as what the heavyweights can be, this is pretty much Brian Jennings probably auditioning, or not so much auditioning, but getting primed up probably for a fight with Andy Ruiz, who we can all say with a pretty good assumption should have been the one to face Joshua the first time and not Joseph Parker.
That'd be a good fight too. Ruiz and Jennings would be a good fight.
Yeah, that would be a good fight because we can joke all we want about Andy Ruiz and his flabbiness at times, but it doesn't take him out to the fact that for a heavyweight, he has really fast hands.
If you can fight, you can fight, and he can fight.
Yeah, so I think that's what he needs built into it. And that's going to be a very interesting card going into it. So I like that. And, well, we all know what Big Baby Duhaupas is. We all know what that is. That's pretty much Big Baby's audition for Joshua. Whether or not he goes back to Showtime to do it, or if HBO breaks out the Brinks truck for Joshua to fight next, is going to be what's going to be telling after that fight.
Going to you, Jacob and Bo. Your thoughts on these 3 fights that's happening in NYC?
For me, Jacobs, his last fight wasn't that exciting. So, I mean, I'd like to see him put on an impressive victory, so that he can stay in the hunt for this, potential rematch or to get a belt. People are going to remember the Charlo knockout or, things of that nature, versus, a May performance. So I'm hoping that he does something, and he can get, a big fight in his next fight, or get a bigger fight in his next matchup if he gets past Sulecki. Big Baby Miller and Duhaupas. I mean, I expect Miller to win, but he can look sloppy at times, and but he's at least entertaining. And then Katie Taylor, I like Katie Taylor a lot. I think if I remember correctly, did she had kind of a tough outing last time, right?
Against
McCaskill.
Jessica McCaskill from Chicago.
McCaskill, I felt got her attention a couple of times. McCaskill was the first person to actually make Katie Taylor fight. Katie Taylor just didn't have it her own way, wasn't able to do what she wanted in there. I was impressed with McCaskill in that fight.
Yeah, so we'll see how she bounces back, because if I remember very correctly, it was a tough fight. It was a really good fight, but it was a tough fight. I mean, Katie Taylor was kind of had to dig deep because McCaskill was bringing it on her, and I think she kind of messed her up a little bit too with some of the power. But I like Katie Taylor, and I'm glad that she's staying active. So we'll see how she bounces back in that fight against Bustos.
Your thoughts on these fights, Bo?
I actually I'm with the Daniel Jacob aspects of it is because you got to be careful. The guy that Daniel Jacobs is fighting, he can pop. This guy has some punching power, so he can pop. Jacobs is going to have to be careful. I think Jacobs is definitely going to have to use his experience, his footwork, and his quickness because he has the faster hands. So he's definitely going to have to use that. So he's going to have to look good, in my honest opinion, in this fight. Eddie Hearn always finds a way to keep his guys busy by finding decent opponents for him to fight. And this would be Sulecki first time like on such a big stage like this. So signing with Eddie Hearns is keeping Jacob busy, which is one of the things Daniel Jacobs wanted. So it is keeping him busy. And as long as you're staying busy, it keeps you in the hunt for a title fight, which I think this fight is a title eliminator. And it now, not to get off track, but it's about to get tricky in this division because you have Charlo, who's now a Mando for the WBC. Then you have Dervinyanko, who's a Mando at the IBF, and then this fight right here is making a Mando. So whoever wins, Gennady Golovkin, if Gennady Golovkin fights Canelo, whoever wins, they're going to have a hard decision to make here because you got 3 mandatories that you're going to have to fill. And, we all know how the IBF roll. They'll strip you. They don't care. So, and they don't necessarily do step aside. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But it keeps him in the title hunt, which is what I like about it. Then, of course, you got Big Baby Miller. Now, he's fighting Duhaupas, who is a guy that, in my honest opinion, had already been beaten by Deontay Wilder. But again, it's one of those fights that Eddie Hearns gets for his fighters, and just to keep their name out there because you'll use the whole, after this, I expect Big Baby Miller to be going back to calling out Wilder because he beat a guy that Wilder already beat, and that's kind of Eddie Hearns' MO is to keep his fighters calling out the name of whatever champions out there holding the belt. As long as they yelling their name and saying their name and they winning, then people sort of buy into the you should fight him if you can't get this and so forth and so on. And he's very good at that. He's very good at keeping his fighters fighting to where they can continue to say names. And then finally, last but not least, you got Katie Taylor. And like you said, Katie Taylor had to fight Jessica McCaskill. And that was a fight where McCaskill made her fight. She caught her a couple of times and she made her fight. So this is another showcase for her as well. I'm waiting actually on Katie Taylor. When you look at the other women fighting like Clarissa Shields, she's fought some tough high level competition. Even Chantel Cameron has stepped up. Katie Taylor's going to have to step up her level of competition too. I mean, I like McCaskill. McCaskill's a good fighter, but you already knew that the skill set was different. So they're going to have to make a move with Katie Taylor and put her in a fight with some better competition as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what's next after this card with these 3 fighters.
Well, Delphine Pearson, in my opinion, is the best women's fighter in that lightweight division. 40-1, I believe, is her record, and that's the fight I ultimately want to see for her in that lightweight division. The unification bout that she's having with Bustos. Bustos is a competent, good boxer. The problem is, I don't think she has any power. I don't think she can trouble Taylor in that aspect. And she can't put some hurt on Taylor. If she can't put some hurt on Taylor, I don't think she has enough skill set to beat Katie Taylor. In terms of Big Baby, I'm with everybody. I'm in line with everybody here. Big Baby, he should get the win. It's a good comparison fight. Given how Duhaupas fared against Deontay Wilder. Daniel Jacobs, it's again another comparison fight. Given how Jermall Charlo looked this past weekend, given that Triple G is fighting the weekend following Jacobs' fight, it's going to be interesting to see how it's not just about the win for Jacobs is how well he looks. So um, that's what I get from that. Going back to you quickly, Bo. Going back to Jermall Charlo and Centeno. I made a point, not a point, but I asked the question out loud following that performance. Would you that I would rather see uh, Jermall fight a Triple G? I would rather see that fight more than I would a Canelo Triple G rematch. I've asked. I'm gonna ask you the question that I asked everybody here, including Scorsese, who was on here earlier. Am I wrong in wondering that and thinking that?
No, not at all. I don't think any. You know, the thing about boxing has gotten to a point now where if you don't say what's popular, you become under scrutiny without being heard out as to your reasons why. And that's kind of what boxing is starting to turn into, which is why I like shows like this. Even with the guys, even with my former counterparts over at Three Kings, is we at least will give you the chance to make your case as to why. But you're not wrong for that. And here's the reason why, in my opinion, not wrong for that. Number one, Charlo is a young, hungry dog who's going to come to fight, who's looking like he really wants this fight and he's going to come to fight. So you have that aspect of it. Charlo is he's one of those all-in type of fighters, which is he has that kill or be killed type of mentality. Okay, so he's going to stand. He's going to try to prove that not only can I take, but I can give. So it can make for an exciting fight. Now, I think most people would want to rather see GGG and Canelo only because they didn't like how the outcome was in the first fight. And that's pretty much it, in my honest opinion. Because of the way the outcome of the first fight was, they're eager to see the rematch. And some people probably would want to see Canelo lose because of the latest scandal with the clenbuterol. So they kind of want to see him, get beat up and lose. So they would rather see that fight. But no, you're not. Listen, you're not wrong for your opinion at all. Period. And I think that's unfortunately, like I said, boxing is getting to that point where if you're not saying what's popular, you kind of come under heavy scrutiny. But if you have good reasons and you can support those reasons with some very good common sense facts and things of that nature, then no, it's not wrong. But sometimes we just have to hear the person out as to why they think that. I would have no problem if he fought. What's funny is a lot of people wanted to see him fight a Charlo or Dervinchenko instead of him fighting Vanes Monterosian right now. So it's just the world of boxing, man.
Given, and I'll ask this for everybody here before we start to shut things down. Given the clenbuterol test and the negativity following that, given what we saw from Jermall Charlo, what we could potentially see from Danny Jacobs next week, as well as Triple G against Monterosian, throughout this discussion, the name that's been left out here for the most part is Canelo. Is there backlash? Is there a backlash now? Are folks starting to sour on one Canelo Alvarez, or is that a reach on my part? And this is open for anybody who wants to comment.
It's kind of 50-50. There is genuine backlash when it comes to the fact that just the way the damage control went. And a lot of people
it was so obvious that Golden Boy was trying to orchestrate all this.
Yeah, so that's not surprising at all when it comes to it. But like I said, when you take into account when you pointed out all the clean records that he had before, it does give him a firm base to be around. There's not so much, like I said, it's just a backlash more towards Canelo. Is not so much for this. It's an accumulation of the fact that a lot of people view Canelo as becoming Floyd in a way, where it's a little bit the behavior, the issue with the suspension, where it would have been a year, but like I said, it's been retroactively 6 months. So there's a sentiment in that when it comes to Canelo, and obviously, like I said, with Derevchenko and with Jermall, it presents, like I said, new challenges for Golovkin. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but the problem is, when it comes to it, is everybody's going to come back to it for the very same reason that Bo pointed out. A lot of people don't like the draw that fight became. There's a good amount of people that believe Golovkin won. There's a good amount of people that believe Canelo won. But not at the vicinity of that Adelaide Bird scorecard. There's always going to be that factor there, and not to mention the fact that Jacob mentioned that he no longer believes that Golovkin is all about the belts, it's mainly about the money. It's still the biggest money fight he can make. Jermall's not going to bring him that amount of money, and Derevchenko's not going to bring him that amount of money. But there is a legitimate backlash there, but it'll probably taper off as some months go by, because especially if they make the fight for September.
I'll go to you, Bo and Jacob. Is it a stretch for me to say that there's now backlash and people starting to sour on Canelo, given the positive test, given the obvious spin from both Golden Boy and HBO to protect this dude?
For me, I mean, and I said this for a long time, Canelo has the added fan base, Mexican fan base, because he's Mexican. He's from Mexico. So, I don't really think that it's almost like preaching to the choir in the sense that he could do no wrong in their eyes. They're going to believe him regardless of whatever you say, and they're always going to back him. And then the people that don't like him, are kind of going to be on the other side of the fence. So, he's becoming, the new diva of boxing. And I guess, Golden Boy is letting him have that power because he is their big, money. I mean, that's pretty much all they have. I can't really think of too many fighters that they have that are going to bring that kind of money to the table and keep them afloat. Especially when they opened up their finances to, I believe it was to the public or whatever. And he was the big reason why they're still, around. But I mean, it's, you're going to have hate from both sides. But again, to your earlier point, like, I don't think you're wrong at all for wanting to see, not wanting to see this rematch again, and would rather see, a Charlo Charlo's a top guy. He's proven that he's a top guy. He was a top guy at 154 and he's a top guy at 160. So, who wouldn't you want to see him against if it's a top guy, whether it's a Jacobs, a Triple G, or even Canelo. That's definitely fair. But I think that things will move on. From this, there'll be another controversy or something else that will creep up, and we'll latch onto that. Although I was thinking about, don't remember as many draws happening in recent times than the last few years. I feel like there's been a lot of draws, but maybe that's just fresh in my mind.
Your thoughts on this, Bo, and this will be the last word of the show.
Okay. Yeah. I think the initial outrage was not so much as the Compluterol. It was how the Golden Boy tried to lie about it. They tried to make it seem like the second test results was actually the first test results, and when in fact we found out about the first test results was indicative to you actually being a user of it. instead of it being contaminated meat. I'm still kind of bothered by the fact that they've even, and I made a video about this called the so-called apology, because nowhere in there did I hear them say they were sorry for actually taking it and doing something wrong. They just made it. It was weak to me. It was just weak to me. And then it also is discussing how the WBC, which now stands for We Back Canelo, is acting like it seemed to be all getting the double standard by them in this effort right here. Canelo Alvarez has treated the WBC like a side piece that don't want no more, and the WBC is acting like a side piece that don't want to go away, and even the WBA getting behind him. So there are some people who have issues with it, but I think, as someone said earlier, as time go by, and if they actually make the second fight in September, a lot of people will start sort of those hostile feelings start going down, because you do make the fight, and at the it is still a big money fight, and that's the problem with it. It is a big money fight. Like somebody mentioned, Jacobs don't bring in this kind of money. Charlo don't bring in this kind of money. The only person, if GGG wants to make a lot of money, he could probably fight is he'll get something for fighting Billy Joe Saunders in the UK, and even I think we even discussed maybe Murata can throw some money out there on the table if he go over to Japan to fight him, because of the big star he is. But it's still the biggest payday he can make, which is Canelo Alvarez. And because of the first fight, because of the not getting a Pacific, I'll say, winner, that is something that people still, that left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So they still more hungrier for that. So if they make that fight, like somebody said, and then of course you got September. And the thing about frustration or being angry or being upset is, if you give anything enough time, people, and then other things start to happen. Like we got these other fights that are coming up in between this time. People will start, the less and less more vocal and angry people will start getting. So I don't think you're wrong, Mike. I think there'll always be a certain level of people that will have resentment toward each fighter, but some of it is a personal agenda that don't have that. Some of it is an agenda that don't have anything to do with the current status of what's been happening right now. And I think that's another thing that goes into play for that. So you're not wrong, but once again, the way boxing works nowadays, it's not the norm anymore on how certain things we remember them being in the sport of boxing. So give it some time, and especially if they make this fight in September, all will be forgiven.
Or as Gail astutely put it in last week's show, these fighters are not necessarily females; they're hoes. And I think that'll be the last word on the show. I want to thank Scorsese, who joined us earlier. If you want to talk the sweet science with him, you can check out his YouTube G Plus channel. Low Place #MLPF. You want to check him out on Twitter, talking boxing and whatnot. You can check him out there at My Low Place. Want to thank Gus from Corruption in Boxing. Want to thank Fink. Also want to thank who's else in here. Someone else was in here. Gus, Finks, RKO Khan, Realistic Boxing, all in the chat this evening during this particular live show. Going around the panel here, Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially the Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Like I said, folks, you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. You can also find Nick's on my own show with the good folks at ForBoxingNews.com with Jerome Francis. Francis, unfortunately, was a little bit under the weather last week, so we missed that. So tomorrow night, we're definitely going to have an hour-filled show, because we got to preview some fights and we got to look over a lot of fights that happened this weekend.
Jacob from Jab Hook. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies, let the people know where they can hit you up.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me on the show. Again, to everybody listening, write a review, subscribe, tell your friends. It's good, great show, best show on the pods. in my opinion, boxing, very knowledgeable guys. So I'm always honored to be on with you guys. Shout out to Gus, and Gail, the regulars that come on, and Scorsese. But yeah, I could be found at Twitter, JRATM23, movies and boxing. And if you want to catch me in a live fight, give me a shot.
Last but certainly not least, both from Truth and Facts and Boxing, I can't thank him enough. He was the one who referred me to UK boxing publicist LPR, which ultimately led to the interview with Isaac Dogboe that I did earlier. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to follow the adventures of you and your daughter, or for those who are in the app game, you got a couple of apps out there right now. Let the people know where they can hit you up.
Of course, you can find me at Truth and Facts About Boxing. Also follow me on Facebook at Truth and Facts About Boxing. Instagram and Twitter is capital T for Truth _ capital F for Fact Box 1. And you can also find me in Three Kings Boxing, along with my co-parts, Willie the Kid, Prodigy of Boxing 2K, Chris C. Bone Henderson, where we write articles and do breaking news. Mike even has an article there. And I'm just glad I was able to help you with that. And I hate I missed it. I definitely hate I missed that interview. But like I said, I'm quite sure it was good. His father's always entertaining and not shy to mince words. And the same sentiments here. I like doing this show. It's a good cast, a boxing panel. We may not always agree, but it's always respectful. And being probably the oldest person on here, I definitely appreciate the respect and father figure level of respect that these guys give me, and knowing that I'm the smartest and the best person on the panel.
I'm gonna let him get away with that. Smartest and best lookers. I'm gonna let him get away with it for now.
Esta verdad, todos de acuerdo conmigo, especialmente con mi amigo. See?
We'll hold you that up to Bo until you have your old man yells at cloud moment.
Don't worry, Bo gonna be reaching that old black stage soon enough. He gonna reach that soon enough. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Magdaleno and Isaac Dogboe, recap of Danny Jacobs and Sulecki, Big Baby Miller, Duhaupas, Katie Taylor bout, and we will do a preview of Triple G and Monte Rosen, as well as the rematch between Tony Bellew and David Hay. So yeah, episode 206 in the books. I'm your host, Michael. If you like what you've heard on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you check us out on SoundCloud, iTunes, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to talk boxing with me or anything else, you can hit me up personally on Twitter, Brother JR76. As I said to begin the show, if you want to find out all things regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the page. You can find the channels and pages on for Pound Box Report on Facebook, YouTube, G+, Twitter, Tumblr. Twitter handle is at P4P Boxing Report. You can also find links to what I listen to the show: SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. So yeah, episode 206 for Scorsese. For Daniel, for Jacob, both from Truth and Facts and Three Kings, I am your host, Michael. We will see you next time. Shout out to everybody in the chat who listened to us live. Everybody have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Ciao.